Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to go through incredible insights into your environment, into an understanding of how to identify and see auras, sense auras, feel energy, see energy, and how that can change the environment you're in, and also a gloss over feng shui, how you need to move certain things to create and increase the amplification of your space, your business, your sacred temple, whatever it is. We're going to show you how to get deep into it and identify with what that is. We're going to imprint an energy object, imprint it with this high frequency, the Tao, all things, and then we're going to go over through a few little energy exercises that will help you become more in tune with the very nature of who you are. Don't forget to stay to the end to do the exercise. Enjoy the video. Resonance, vibration, synchronicity. All is one, one is all. That is your gift, that is your offering. That is your gift, that is your offering. The sound echoing right here, right now. The name that cannot be named. The anchor to all things. The gateway to the universe. Welcome to the consciousness of the way. Divine Delectable Co-host, High Priestess Jadis.
I swear if you call me that one more time.
Kumbaya, my lord. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master Sun Qing. And we're back. We're back again. It's happy days.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in the saddle. What an incredible way to start going over many things, but most importantly, we want to talk about the framework of a deeper understanding of human dowsing. You want to know within the infrastructure of your space, your temple, your home environment, you need to know what is operating. And normally, whenever I am doing any sort of processes, whether I'm teaching someone or whether I'm working with someone, I go through the infrastructure, determining where all the vortices are, whether they're high or low frequency, what is the earth giving you, how to frame it out, another version, a much deeper, more structured version of feng shui, as I am a feng shui master. Part of being a Taoist priest is one of the many facets to the diamond. So you want to have these things all in order so that you can maximize the space that you're in. And quite frankly, history shows you that before recently, probably in the last couple of years, most people, when they're contemplating putting their church, their temple, a sacred space, they will have their priest, i.e. Taoist priest, Taoist alchemist, come and work on the lines, the fault lines, or all the crossing or opposing lines within the Earth's core that will basically reflect on the magnetic pull of the space that you're in. So you want to amplify where it is that you are living, and you want to create the right type of like flow, ebb and flow that we speak of. So understanding these things, and part of the infrastructure of training, we teach people how to see this stuff. It's part of the clear sense training. And on top of that, you go through a deeper understanding of this human dowsing component, which is part of the alchemy, where you can see the energy, you can feel the energy, and then you can alter the energy, which is really critical. So finding these positive and negative vortices, portals, and then amplifying, attune and close down one, amplify the other. This is what they've been doing for thousands of years when it comes to ancient sacred religious spots, or just temples, or just places where people are communing to prayer, communing to validate their belief system. This all starts with the framework. So you can, pretty much be sure that if you're not aware of these things, you're working on tuning your energetics, that you want to keep everything fluid. So the feng shui of your living environment, your work environment, your spiritual environment is at the highest frequency, right?
And they have these places like everywhere. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to like a mystery spot, or like, I know they're all over America. They're really all over the world, where you go there and you can feel this like presence, or
Right.
and like, you'll have like an angled floor like this, and the ball will like roll opposite of how gravity would tell you it would do it, or like the trees all grow a certain way or lean a certain way, and you feel this kind of magnetic force where you're like, whoa, I'm walking up, but I'm going down, and I'm
Right.
stuff that
Right.
would seem opposite of the way naturally, the rules of the universe, the rules of gravity, the rules of physics. But it's completely shifted because of, like you said, these vortices, these energy hotspots, these magnetic kind of palpitations just throughout the earth. And they are, most of the time they're tourist spots and kind of fun places to go experience. But people don't realize they're everywhere. Just because it doesn't have a mystery sign on it, and you can roll the ball up, it doesn't mean that they're everywhere. They're in your house, they're in your office building, they're throughout the city, the country, wherever you are. You just have to be able to tap into them.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I do when I'm teaching someone, working with someone, is getting that framework done. In most cases, there's sort of like entry levels of other entities, including vortices that are interrupting the flow of that person's, realization, what they want in their life, what they're manifesting, what they're cultivating. And that is completely predicated on understanding that all these things can build on themselves. And literally, by me moving something or adding a color or frequency, turning off one vortex and then amplifying another one, can make a huge difference to your very mastery, whatever it is that you're doing in your life. And so when you're learning all these things, there's an integrated progression to getting to that level. And, I always find that if I'm, doing a podcast with a guest, I'll see many different vortices in their space, and I'll bring their direction to it, get them to sample it, have their mind blown because their eyes are open. They're not sitting in a lotus position, calling in their guides and asking for a divine divination. It's just there. It's present. It's palpable. 100. And so all these things sort of stack upon themselves if you're going down that path within Taoist metaphysics and the true nature of Taoist magic. These things have to all be considered and applied to maximize your result, so that when you cast manifestation, magic, or healing, it's instantaneous. It's not this clunky sort of resistance that comes with the environment that you're pulpating from. Now, everything is instant, but I must say to you, if you are living in an environment that is not being optimized, there is, in many cases, if you're casting magic, manifestation, healing, even if you're working with someone distantly, these are things that you must consider as to potential resistance or not getting the result that you're looking for instantaneously. So with this consideration is how you laser focus your ability to materialize the very nature of what it is that your intention is focusing on. So you want to make sure that these things are all stacked up and that you're considered. Like, it's very often that I get many people that are being pretty much plagued by a resistant energy, many probably spirit entities that they've drawn into their field due to their own practices, their belief systems, and they do tend to impede or hinder the very infrastructure of their magic. So we are working in all dimensions at once, right? And understanding that within Nigong, this is how you acquire that. Your cultivation is very deep, and you're working on all dimensions. That's the power of Nigong. And if you're a practitioner that's working in a certain space, that could be hindering the very effect of what it is that you're doing. So to amplify the energy, just as I do it right now, and you're like, you're not doing anything. I'm not, but I am. I'm putting my intention to the very amplification of the energy that you're experiencing at home. And so the more you create the space, the more evident it is the intricacies. And of course you can cast it anywhere. But if you have a home base, a spiritual sanctuary, a living space, a business space, the fundamentals of feng shui are really powerful at amplifying what it is that you're doing. Now, you could walk outside and go in the middle of nowhere and cultivate energies also. So these are things that you need to consider when you're doing this stuff appropriately. So most people tend to just talk about the temple, the physicality, your alignment with the energetics and your physical body, your spirit body, your energy body. These are absolutely profound realizations. And then you must also consider the environment that you are cultivating these things in. So when you don't consider the actual environment, you are potentially hindering what is taking place, because in all intents and purposes, everything should be instantaneous, right? So the resistance that you may have to a manifestation, magic, healing are all potentially resistant to other elements. So these are things to consider. This is not, oh my goodness, negative, horrible energy. No, you just want to transmute it the way you want it. It's like everyone always talks about good and bad. That's subject to a duality that would be a 3D reality. We are speaking beyond that, and that every energy has its place. And if it's not transmitting or it's impeding something, you reduce that, redirect it, and amplify the higher frequency so that it can, bear you the fruit, the result, the expectation of delivering you what it is that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So these things are very important to consider when you're stepping into the realm of magic. And specifically within Taoist magic, we look at all these things. That's why we have specific methods to develop and cultivate the energies that we speak of. And that's why people gravitate to Taoist alchemy, because it has such a palpable effect and you can experience it. It's experiential. And that's most important, is that you're experiencing it. It's not just some fleeting moment where I threw the thought out into the ether with the potential of a result. The universe will provide. No, we're talking about a palpable, repeatable, cultivating processes. And you want to amplify that by doing these very things, and then you will see the result. We do this with, other spaces, and we've brought that to the attention of the podcast, where we'll go out to casinos, and the geometry, the structure has been laid out to literally make sure people lose. This is real, ladies and gentlemen. Those vortices are created when you start putting things in a certain order. Lines, objects, shapes, they all are imprinted within the field of possibilities. And when you align them a certain way and you understand how to do that, you will get a prescribed result. So do not be twisted with the idea that you think that maybe your favorite water hole, gambling hole, whatever, hasn't already got these structures. And then that draws another potential, which is certain spirit entities that will then align with these things. So you have another layer upon layer upon layer. So you must consider all the potential and the probability of what we're speaking of. This is not a figment of your imagination or dismissal. As you enter this realm and you realize that everything is energy, frequency, vibration, you will come to that realization. But it's not a fear-based realization. It's just like, okay, well, I've gone through this process here, and it's a thousands of year old practice of cultivation, yet it's not bearing me the fruit. It's kind of like, okay, what do I have to do to adjust to create the result that I'm looking for? And that's what it really comes down to. And then when you understand how to acquire the energy, you get a vibration, it creates a frequency, and then you must resonate with that to acquire the result. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to. People need to realize that that's the only hindering potential. That's it. Beginning and end. That's where it starts, that's where it ends.
So you were talking, I was going to ask this question. So you were talking about how positive vortices and negative ones, how are they?
Lower.
Lower.
It wasn't a negative. I didn't mention negative.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Not negative, but higher vortices and lower vortices. Can you have both of them? And do you create new ones, or do you change the ones that are already existing to have it match whatever frequency you want it to match at?
Good question.
Yeah.
And actually can do both.
Okay.
And so energy's energy. You play with it. It can be altered at will when you identify a lower frequency that really becomes just more an impeded sort of like obstacle. It's not something that's going to be ominous and take your life and absorb your living space and suck the life out of you. There are physicality sort of basically, effects that take place where you have a line of running water under a certain potential ground, and it can, due to the magnetism of the earth, draw energy from this particular spot. And if you happen to be occupying that spot, due to the yin and yang element, and because of the way that it draws, the water will draw energy from the actual basically the electromagnetic field of whatever is above it, due to the combination of earth and the water element. If you stand over the top of this very spot, it will draw energy from your physical field. And that's not oh no, this is horrible, this is negative. you will see the physical traits of that because you will feel more exhausted. You won't feel refreshed. You won't feel alive. You'll be like, I go to sleep, I wake up, and I feel more exhausted than I did the day before. These are telltale signs that there's irregularities. Now, the beautiful part is, once you identify it, you change the energy. That's it. It's not about, oh no, I've got to destroy this. I've got to run for the hills. This is scary. This is ominous. No, these are all gifts from the Tao, every single one of them. And you change the lines of the energy and how it flows. And when you put in the right type of what we call the amplifying ingredient within Taoist magic, and it comes in many different forms, using metals, using actual natural elements that can come from all different types of stones, herbs, i.e. Sea salt. There are many different ingredients that we can add to alter the energy and bring it where it needs to go. Now, as you develop your skills, you can do it without. But there is a progression, right? So when you first identify it, there are simple things that you can literally put in a progression or a procession, a line that will dictate and transmute the energy the way you want it to. So that's the most important thing, is do not be concerned or feared by this type of stuff. Realize that you can alter the energy any way you want. The biggest red flag is when you start adding the emotional content of fear. That will impede your ability to get a result that you're looking for.
Is that why you think people are so attracted to crystals and like putting crystals everywhere and affecting their space, maybe on a very entry level, just having a crystal within their space?
Yeah, I mean, they're amplifiers. There's no question. And, when you're able to tap into this frequency, the energy, vibration, and frequency that we speak of, which is, beyond the electromagnetic field, you're bringing in a wave of energy that is unmatched, because it's the Tao, it's all things. And when you do that, it has profound effects. And so through your journey of cultivation, these are things that you put in place as you start leveling up. And quite frankly, through your attention intention, you create a sacred space that's second to none in matching. But you use these other elements to create the amplification, so then you can continue to cultivate and draw that energy in. But in essence, the bottom line is you're the tuning fork. You're the catalyst and conduit of this transmission. And the more that you become in line with it, the more mastered you become at your cultivation, it becomes evident. So, certain ingredients that we teach people how to use to amplify a sacred space, a healing space, a home, things of that nature, I can come in and alter all that with the mastery that I've acquired without using any elements. So be aware that it all comes in a degree of mastery. And the more you develop these skills, the more you can tune in and acquire that state at will.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of like the survival guide. It's like I could survive with just a spoon and a mirror. And like, when you get to that point and that mastery, it's like you don't need anything. You can just run the energy. But for most people, as an entry level, affecting their feng shui, moving something here, adding something here, changing, getting someone to come in and alter their space, is a huge component to starting to feel and align yourself with those energies to really maximize your space for whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, and what's most important is you consciously have your eyes open and we move this stuff around. Mm-hmm. And you instantly notice a difference. And that's part of
The
the power.
feeling.
The feeling is what we're talking about. So, you get a jump off point. I mean, I don't need to tell you in a course of a week how many people come to us for the very structure of that, whether it's at their business, at their home, because this is a foundational amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
And then, remember, it's an extension of yourself. Understand you are the ultimate tuning fork, and that wherever it is that you're cultivating, which, ultimately is the highest state, these can be contending, impeding elements that you need to be aware of so that you can ultimately affect change,
Mm-hmm.
which is the main goal, right? So
And
everyone talks about, purifying, my energy, purifying. You just want to regulate. Purification is sure, it's part of development of energetic cultivation. But once it's just like anything, if you exercise that and you're doing a specific processes of development, it happens it naturally. You don't have to think, oh my goodness, I need to purify and protect myself and do it. No. This is fundamentally the biggest mistake that people make, and they remove themselves from the very evidence-based experience they're looking for because they're shrouded in fear that makes them contracted and less dilated when it comes to being at one with all things.
Mm-hmm. It's like a Jade's analogies. It's like I think of it like a river, and
Right.
there's like different logs stuck in the river, changing the way the water flows.
Right.
The log doesn't look at you and go, "Oh, were you a good person today? I don't think I'm going to let you pick me up. I'm going to
Right.
go over there and let John pick me up because, he donated to charity this month and you didn't." The log doesn't care. It doesn't look at you at all. If you're strong enough to pick it up and you can move it so you can change the flow of the water, that's with the same thing with the energy. It isn't you're looking at the log as if it's judging you and it's going to affect you somehow if you move it. Oh, I'm in fear. I don't want to touch it. And then I'm going to have something happen to me. The log doesn't care at all. It's whether you're able to move it or not. If you can move it, the energy completely changes. But it doesn't, I think everyone kind of assumes that it's being judged all the time.
Right.
And so it's like, I'm in fear because if I attempt to shift this energy around, I'm going to be affected. And it's like, everything's energy. So the energy isn't looking at you and judging you. It's just that whether you have the skills or not to be able to move it and shift it, that's all that it matters.
Right. And that really is the deeper understanding of it, is when you can move it, all of a sudden, you see change, you see results.
You feel it.
And you feel it. I mean, this is the visceral kinesthetic response that we talk about,
Right.
is thoughts, feelings, and emotions.
And I think it's so cool when we watch someone else feel it.
Well, that's what I like to do, is sort of like a conscious realization that this stuff is happening. And I do that with a lot of guests of the podcast that would be unassuming and just sort of being in a conversation with me, not prepped up to have some spiritual awakening. And then I drop it on them. And they go, oh, shit, this is real. Yeah, 100%. 100. That's how it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is. That's what it really comes down to. It comes down to the power of you feeling it, you attuning yourself. And I think step one into doing this is aligning yourself and being able to feel the energy of, okay, there's a little more here, there's a little less here. And most people, for us, it's easy. I mean, you snap your fingers, you can activate it for them. And they go, whoa, I can't believe I felt that. I've never felt that before. But if people want to start doing this for themselves and, walking into a space, it's like you do want to start refining yourself to feel a lot more of the intricacies of the energy, the vortices, all of the different hotspots
Right.
where you go.
Right, and that comes with the training. That comes
Exactly.
with the internal alchemy. And we specifically, I know we've been talking about this, we've had a lot of things going on, but we're at the end of releasing a bunch of stuff that you can pick up, everything from, starting and activating your energetic body to a deep training into your internal alchemy, your Qigong, and then also, a sort of fundamental ability to, attune yourself to energies through the Taoist rites, which is the architecture of healing.
Mm-hmm.
So all that, comes deep within an understanding of frequency and an understanding of colors, because all these things are very important to healing and how you apply them to the individual. And this stuff has been around for thousands of years, guys. And quite frankly, what I want to bring a point to is the lineage, the ancestors, the celestial realm that we operate in, that has been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. Yes, I'll say it again, because I just had a friend of the podcast, Michael Cremo, who is a historian and has spent his career chasing the origins of human existence. And quite frankly, to his amazement and through his curiosity and his desire to be more attuned to what he considers factual, like ancient history, on paper we can be quite clear that there is very substantial evidence through his own research and discovery that human beings in the form that we're at right now have gone back as far as 1 million to 2 million years. Yes, let me repeat it one more time.
Ooh, I just got to chill.
So when I get people that are really, unfortunately, very limited in their perception, and they're stuck in a psyop where they want to tell me that Lao Tzu lived at, 1500 BC to, please stop, because you're just working on a program of, I'll be very clear, false information. And so it's becoming more and more apparent that this is the truth. And I personally, my experience, and this is why I stand by it, through my own teachers, whether it's Lao Tzu, whether it's Jade Emperor, whether it's highest purity, whether it's supreme purity, Jade purity, highest purity, Ling Bao, the information is valid and it's palpable. And when I share it, it resonates through the very core of who you are. And that is where you get your information from, the truth teller. And so the visceral, vibratory, kinesthetic response that you get from the very information that I share with you is the validator, the truth teller. That is it. So when you go, historically, look, fundamentally right now, history is having the core rattled. Mm-hmm. The core of what you believe is your truth, the evolution of man, and all things in between. That is just, even 600 years ago, it was quite common within the physics community, when we're talking about science, we're not even talking about science, that they were using one of the measurable tools to validate what we're speaking of was mysticism, was spirituality, was energetic vortices, spirits, all this sort of esoteric, sort of like what people would consider woo-woo stuff today, was part of the science model 600 years ago. And Michael shared that with us on the podcast, and it's like, what went wrong? What happened that all of a sudden, 600 years ago, it was a valid pillar of science discovery that these were elements? Well, of course, there was too many question marks within the Western model. So what better way to just pivot and dismiss things, but to go and, we can't pinpoint this stuff. So let's just go back to measuring matter, flesh, And we can sort of like summarize that to a degree that would be respectable, that we can give you a summation. And then, of course, that dismissal then dismissed a whole another level of all the energetics were just off the table.
Mm-hmm.
As if that wasn't the secret source of the very life force that is having you breathe, having you, the blood pump into and from your heart. This is all part of it. That, universal intelligence that we call prana, chi, this is a life force that is the very essence that I'm speaking of, which is beyond the electromagnetic field. It's because it has a completely different energy, vibration, and frequency that cannot be qualified, even today in today's science. So, you go from Newtonian physics to, quantum mechanics, and in between. But quite frankly, even quantum, a new language that's only been present a couple of 100 years, is in question because they cannot validate gravity. So with that evidence from a historian whose life's work is pursuing the origins of mankind, I ponder the question to you. When someone gives you a timeline and it doesn't feel right to you, believe yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell you from direct information from my teachers, Lao-Tzu, Jade Emperor, Ling Bao, Yellow Emperor, Taoism has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, I'm going even further. I used to stand by tens of thousands, 30,000, 40,000. I'm going to say hundreds of thousands. So through one of the other historians we have who's a regular on the channel is Alexander,
Mm-hmm.
and he is the first one to question the very evidence because it doesn't hold water, ladies and gentlemen and ladies. And we went over a conversation on the very topic talking about, well, what's the biodegradability of just a construct of homes, of whatever we own or exist in this very world right now. If it was left to go to dust in 10,000, 100,000 years, none of this would exist.
Right.
If not being, taken care of. If you just leave it, just the way the watermarks were quite clear on the pyramids in Giza, the Giza pyramids, there are watermarks going that are evident all the way above, right to the peak of the pyramids in Egypt. Corrosion marks. What does that mean? It means that was underwater, ladies and gentlemen and ladies. So, hello.
Yep. We were just talking about this the other day.
Right. So, I absolutely love this stuff, and that's why I want to bring it to you guys, because you get a greater understanding of the very inner workings of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go at face value, you can, but I would say that you potentially are missing out on levels of consciousness and understanding that the greater nature of reality. And that's why you're here on this channel, because we're sharing it with you. And so that's very, very important to understand these things. This is what we bring to this is so important. Our exploration, why we bring the guests on this channel, is for the very thing. If you listen to the description of this channel, it's about reminding you who you are and helping you become aware of the internal power that you have in consciousness as all things, the Tao, the mother of all things.
Right. Because everything that you research or learn or go back in time to is all an interpretation. It's all a bias and a understanding and someone's perspective of what actually happened. But that's just one little tiny thing. It's like that's the perspective of the person who wrote the book, but the person who didn't write the book had a completely different perspective. But
Right.
you don't know that, or
Well-
you never hear that unless you can actually tap in to it or channel it or go to somebody who can and kind of really give you that source information or take you there or make you feel it, because that feeling is so much more than the description.
And, I mean, the whole point of it is I'm not dismissing anyone's belief system. Understand
No.
this. But understand that the Tao Te Ching is the most translated scripture in human history. And so what people don't realize about, Chinese language and Chinese characters, there can be multiple variables of what it actually means when you put two characters together, or you have them individually or in a certain order. It changes the whole message. So this is why you have translations. Personally, we're releasing our Tao Te Ching next week, and I sat down with Latsu, and he gave me direct source. And even my Mandarin teacher was in tears, a native of China. And she was in tears because she was so emotionally, touched by the very essence of these words. And so the Tao Te Ching to us is the magical register at a much deeper level. It will come in English, Mandarin, and also, Pinyin. So there's a whole heap of different things you apply this register to, and it'll be giving you further notice that it will be related to Taoist rites and also other individual practices, but it has a palpable resonance to it, which you're experiencing right now. It's like it's full, it's expansive, and when you read it, you drop into a different dimension. And there's actually 81 levels to each incantation, which is all things, my friend. So stay tuned for that, because that's going to rock the whole Taoist reality, whether you've got historians or anyone else. When they read it, they will be very clear on what's going on. And I dare you to refute what it is that I share with you, because it's not in the thinking, it's in the feeling, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies. And when you come to that realization, all bets are off.
That's right.
And so let's talk about another element that we teach people, which will be an offering, is synesthesia, or the idea of seeing and feeling auras, which is part of the clairsense program of Taoist training. And some people will see sounds in color form. They're not delusional. Some person who calls themselves the mastermind behind the psyche, a psychiatrist, or someone who wants to, deconstruct the human mind and the way the brain works, which is very limited. If you come from biology, neurology, psychology, physiology, you are limited in your nature. This is the starting point, right? So you need to be able to, when you're doing this feng shui and you're being trained in it, and when I see it, I'm able to see it, I'm able to point it out to you, and people that may not have the sensory perception to the level I have will instantly be able to feel it and go, what the? Bah. Because that's what the nature of reality is, ladies and gentlemen and ladies.
Now, for everyone, because I was unfamiliar with the term, what is
Synesthesia.
synesthesia?
It's like it's basically someone is being diagnosed. They're seeing auras of things. They're seeing auras where instead of just hearing a sound, they see the color of the sound. It's basically a sensory perception. So, you're developing this skill. I would not call it a punishment or a mental distortion or a psychotic distortion of reality. It's a sense that you have developed through however you've turned on your higher consciousness. It's a developmental skill. It's a very powerful sense to have. And that's part of something that becomes developmental within the clair senses when we train people in this stuff. You're able to see the auras, see the energies, see the information from each energy center and organ that gives you a deeper understanding of the individual, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah. I feel like I can see with my ears.
Yeah.
That, I mean, for me, that's kind of my heightened sense when it comes down to all things. I mean, of course, being a mom, you almost have to because you're off doing other things that it's like, I'll catch my kids doing stuff and they'll be like, how did you know I was doing it? I was in the other room. And I was like, oh, no, I heard you. Like, I heard you and I could see you by hearing you, and they always think that's funny. But it is, I think all of these things, whether you're born with it or you develop it, are so important to come to that realization and be excited by these gifts. They're truly gifts. They're not, they like to be labeled as, schizophrenia and personality disorders and these negative connotations on having these senses of seeing stuff or feeling stuff or hearing stuff, tasting stuff. And really they're gifts.
1000% gifts. And when you cultivate them,
Exactly.
all bets are off. And that's what we do. We help you refine and cultivate. That's what Taoist practices have been known for hundreds of thousands of years. Oh, no, he didn't. Oh, yes, he did. No, he didn't. Oh, yes, I did. And, it's getting old when you start just sort of accept this sort of status quo, sort of benign version of reality.
Yeah.
It's very limited.
It is. And it's not, it is unnatural. It's natural to be mystical. It's natural to be magical. It's natural to experience these things that we keep hidden up inside of us. I mean, if we had a penny for every time someone goes, I've never told anybody this experience, but I just felt the need to tell you.
Right.
And you're like, and we look at them and we're like, this is amazing. And they're like, I thought people were going to lock me up. I thought people were going to think I'm crazy. I never wanted to speak on this, but I had this experience. It's like, we all have it. It's so natural because that's who we are. That's what we're supposed to be feeling, experiencing, and cultivating, all at the same time.
Right. And that's part of a deeper access to this cultivation. And so I think we briefly went over vortices the last podcast.
Yeah.
And so, these are very clear energy points and portals that everyone has throughout their whole house. And the space around them. And then the deeper understanding of how you cultivate, you can create them and use them as a nourishing point for your own healing.
And I think water is such a powerful element when it comes to that too. Whether you're drinking water or in the shower, in the hot bath, in a hot tub, in your pool, any form of water within that is just amplifies it.
And, there's a difference when you come across a fault line or something that's going on in the core of the earth where water is running these lines as opposed to it being on your physical body.
Right.
So remember, it's an absorbing element. And it goes places where man cannot go.
Yeah.
And so you need to decide how you're appropriately applying it to your own cultivation. And when you do it appropriately, profound things take place. But it is the most powerful elements.
Absolutely. Or just like, I mean, again, certain areas or places like clay, like volcanic clay, that energy and the vortice that is within that volcano when you have it in that clay form, or you put it on your skin or your face or your body in some way, instant like healing
Right.
properties, instant, almost that vortice is transmitted into you.
Right. And did we do this the last time? Did I charge anything up the last time? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
you charged up someone, whatever the object of the
Right,
audience.
right. And now, whatever you charged up, you can put in front of you, and quite frankly, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
Like, just let's just sample some of the audience's objects. Feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's palpable. And then when you put your fingers towards the core, the epicenter of the energy field,
Yeah.
it's right there. And understand that. And so now what I can do is with that very object, whatever you charged, and for anyone that's new to the channel that's experiencing this for the first time, you don't need to go back. What I'll do is I will charge it for you right now. Get your object, any object, go run, grab an object. And for all the audience that has already charged their objects and they're experiencing this, and the new ones that are grabbing something, what you can do is put your hands like this. Now, the really crazy part is what's really nuts is how fast this becomes evident. It's like a drop in, as if it came out of the sky, out of nowhere. And so I'm going to charge the new people to the audience their object in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. As if out of nowhere something is going on. What is the pulpability and the density? As if liquid energy was poured out of the sky, and it's pulpable and expansive, and now concentrated into the very center of that object. Ooh, yeah.
And the temperature changed too.
Right. And so now for all the OGs, holy moly, that is crazy. And if I had to describe the aura, it's this phosphorus white light with this gold shimmering, like, basically outline that sort of moves in and out, the pulpability of that. So now you have the new people to the channel, you have the other people that had it from the previous episode. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few little things. I'm not going to say what they are, but you can experience the difference. And I'm just going to go in order. I'm going to add 9 things, and you watch the difference. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. First item. Second item. Third item. Fourth item. Fifth item.
Ooh.
Sixth item. Seventh item. Eighth item. And the last one. Now, you can take that to the bank. You can roll that up in your doobie and smoke it. Now, you experience that with your eyes open, and you're now feeling the pulpability of that. And with every item I added, whether it was a grid, whether it was an element, whether it was a specific talisman, incantation, I mean, holy moly.
Yeah.
You work that out. I'm not posing you to get into the lotus position. This is what I talk about: ancestral heat, celestial heat. This is from another world. This is from another dimension, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, ladies. That charge you got up your Tai Chi pole again and again and again and one more time. Oh, how is that happening? He just says it and it's just charging. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was such a difference from when you first dropped it in to feeling it now, and so many different aspects.
Well, there's so many different gradients, subtleties,
Yeah,
variables,
like
senses.
in a texture way, and
Oh, yeah.
also in like a silkiness and then temperature to different, whether it was felt cooler or warmer. Color, I mean, different colors. If you were seeing colors, I mean, there's so many different.
But I mean, it hasn't gone anywhere. If you just run your hands up like this, it's like it literally creates a vibrational difference through the
Right.
gradients of that, and it's pulpated and permeated through everything.
Right.
You're welcome.
It is, and it's kind of, and it goes in a difference between, like, you know, maybe playing with like clay to then like the stretchiness of dough, or then like slime and Play-Doh, like how all of those things have such different textures as you're kind of playing with it, and you can feel it. You can feel the texture is so. That's what I picked up on the most was
Well,
how
it's the texture. Now, if I
Yeah.
concentrate it all into a center point, it's like this fundamental resistance to the center point of that.
Right.
This is what we call celestial heat, the torrid field.
Yeah.
This is part of Taoism. And this is where you must realize that you are working on ancestral celestial lineage and generation after generation of cultivation that goes back hundreds of thousands of years.
So cool.
Yeah, you're welcome. And this is part of your own development. And you being a part of this channel and you witnessing this, you can go on the magical mystery ride. You can start, which always is a baseline, the way 126. I mean, there's 2 years worth of developmental skills that opens up 108 energy centers between you and the universe. And I can tell you, you open up the first 9 and you're going to have a charmed life. Your mastery of your emotions is instantaneous. And it's a consensus whenever someone uses this incredible tool.
Yeah.
It's a visual, audible experience, creating a kinesthetic charge, the visceral response. And this tuning is a mastery that you acquire. I teach people how to do this. We teach people how to
And
do
anyone
this.
can acquire it. It's just, like you said, mastering it, learning it, refining it. And we all have the technology to do it.
Right. Danielson,
Yeah.
call me. Danielson.
Ooh. That was amazing.
Yeah. You know, but most importantly, when we look at the whole picture today, this is about understanding the subtleties and the densities, the variables of energy, the polarizing effects of hot and cold. These are all subject to what you're experiencing and then the end result of what you get. And so remember, everything is energy, frequency, vibration.
Yes.
Don't be twisted. And so, in understanding the origins of all things, when you think you're limited by a timeline of someone that can just pull out a piece of paper that dates back 6,000 BC, or as a tablet, a tortoise shell, you're being very limited. You're being very narrow in relation to your perception, because it's just it's a falsity. It's not true. And that comes from a historian that has spent his life pursuing the origins of the human. And with that power, you realize that, my goodness, we haven't even scratched the surface.
No.
So when you go by the historical timelines that are present today, they're all false. All of them. But that's for you to discover. I'm just sharing it with you. I'm explaining it, what my experience is. All the people that resonate with what we share and what we do is the very nature of how we get to where we are. And if you're here, you're in the right place at the right time, there are no coincidences, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and it is such a powerful thing to really learn how to start accessing your own information. Learn how to start receiving your messages, hear them clearly, unfiltered, because that's where you're really going to start seeing that exponential development and growth, because that's your knowing. Your knowing is the most important thing. Your truth is the most important thing.
Yeah, we had a great friend of the channel, Masami,
Mm-hmm.
and she channels the moon. That's her direct teacher.
Amazing.
Now, within our lineage, we channel the three pure ones. There are 171 different teachers within our lineages. And Latsu is my personal teacher on a minute-by-minute basis. These are levels of access of information, and you acquire them through your own mastery and through the training and teachings that we share here at the Way 126.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And so, origins of mankind, origins of energy, origins of the relationship that you have with your environment is very important. Don't just assume the temple is your physical body. You can access all things, but there are degrees of development. So understand that if things are not being acquired to the level that you perceive them as, manifestation, magic, healing, there are impeding sort of obstructions that you're not being aware of that are hindering the potency of the frequency that we speak of. Because ultimately the goal is you are the tuning fork.
Yes.
And that means you can take that anywhere. But understand, if you're in a space that you're attempting to acquire a result in and it has these obstructions, that we need to reconfigure the energy to amplify and maximize the result that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And once you develop a certain degree, all bets are off. These things start to become tools that at a higher level of resonation are unnecessary. But on your road to that, there are fundamental building blocks that you should acquire to develop these very skills.
Right. As your conversation with Tom Campbell, it's like you need these tools to create your confidence. And
Right.
as your confidence grows, the lesson.
So does your knowing.
So does your knowing. So does your understanding, power, skills, that you don't need the tools anymore because you have the confidence to know I do this and I get this result.
100.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, any thoughts, feelings, or emotions you want to end this podcast with?
I think we touched on it, but it's important to remind people to remove the emotional content, especially when going into, if you want to go into different places, feel the feng shui, feel the energy, feel the experience, the vortices, your house, other people's houses, businesses, wherever you are, is to remove that, the fear of this emotional content that, I'm going to be, sucked in or vampired, or, the energy is going to be released from me, pulled from me. When that's just not the case. You're just feeling it as the observer. And that's the most important perspective to come from.
100. So with that, I think we should just do what we normally do, which is another little exercise leading us out of this very experience, where we're just going to charge up your dantians, because we love to charge dantians. And timeline. We love to charge dantians, so that's exactly what we're going to do.
Let's do it.
And so, with a sense, eyes open or closed, you're already attuned. Boom. Oh, what is that weirdness that I'm attuned to the field? That's so crazy how I'm already feeling this energy. You're welcome. And so with that, I'm just going to have you inhale, exhale into the upper dantian. Inhale, exhale into the middle dantian. Inhale, exhale, lower dantian. Hold it. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Oh, yeah. It's amazing how quickly that takes place.
Mm-hmm.
You attune yourself. Let the breath just let you fire up. Now you're even more wired for the energetic cultivation as it starts to fill you with your every breath like an amber of a cigarette. So anyone in a distance or present, as you listen to my voice, embody this very moment, embrace it to infuse the essence, the cellular structure of this physical body you identify as your very self, and allow it to cultivate, percolate, expand. Sit with it. Be with it. Know with it. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master Sun Qing, and I will see you on the next one, guys.